Welcome to Secret Story, go ahead and take the car, I'll walk home when I'm finished, I shouted to my husband as he walked out of the gym. I wanted to get in a few more miles on the treadmill before calling it a night. Shortly after my husband left, a tall handsome black man came into the gym and started running on a treadmill next to mine. He was about 6 feet 5 inches, in great shape with a muscular build and short buzzed dark hair. After jogging for a few minutes, he removed his sweat-drenched t-shirt and tossed it on the floor behind him. I did my best to keep my eyes forward, but to no avail. "Hey there," he said, looking over and catching me staring. Hi," I replied, blushing red with embarrassment. "I'm just about done on here. Would you like to take a quick swim before the pool closes?" he asked in a friendly tone. I was caught off guard by his offer, but didn't want to turn down. "Sure, I'd like to cool down before walking home," I replied. I shut down my machine and hopped off as he did the same. "Cool, I'll meet you in there," he waved, disappearing into the men's locker room. I ran into the women's room and opened my locker only to discover I had left my bathing suit at home. I walked out to the pool to find the man sitting on the edge soaking his legs in the water. "I'm sorry, but I don't have a bathing suit to change into," I said, informing him of the dilemma. "That's too bad," he said, in a semi-sarcastic tone. My mind started racing with the possibilities of what might happen if I agreed. "Are you serious?" I asked, shocked by how forward the man was. "I'm down if you are," he said, looking at me with eyes full of anticipation. "There are cameras all over the place. And what if we got caught?" I reasoned with him, even though deep down I wanted to do something so daring. "Lucky for us I work for maintenance." "Be right back," he said, before walking past me and out the door. I paced around the pool wondering what he was up to while I waited for him to return. "Okay, the doors are locked and all the cameras are turned off," he said, walking back into the pool area. "Oh wow, are you serious?" I asked, surprised he was taking this so far with a total stranger. "Hell yes. I'll go first," he replied, walking towards the pool. "Come on in," he shouted as I stood in shock from what I had just seen. "I don't know about this," I said nervously. "It's okay, I'll cover my eyes until you get into the water," he said, making me a little more comfortable that I quickly removed. I swam underwater towards him. "See, that wasn't so bad," he said, "looking down this water feels amazing," I said, enjoying myself, pretending not to notice. I did my best to keep my mind distracted as I began to splash around in the cool water. "Let's swim a few laps," the man suggested. I looked over at him briefly before taking off as quickly as I could, making a race out of it. "Catch me if you can," I shouted and swam toward the other end of the pool. Once I reached the end, I looked around to see if I had gotten there first. Seems it was my lucky night as he was still a few feet behind me. "I won," I shouted, throwing my arms in the air. "I guess so, but the view from second place was worth it," he replied with a wink, I playfully splashing water at his face. He laughed and splashed back at me, starting a small water fight. He chased me around the pool as I floated backwards, splashing water in his face. When he caught up with me, he grabbed me by my hands. Unable to stand in the deep water, he easily pulled me towards him. "Hello," he said, staring deep into my eyes before leaning forward to kiss me. That I'm not sure what came over me. I knew I should be pushing him away, but instead I kissed him back. "No, stop," I said, pulling away from him. I started to come to my senses as I realized what we were doing. "What's wrong?" he asked. "I can't do this, I'm married," I replied, trying to convince myself to do the right thing. I broke from his grip and swam backward toward the shallow end where my feet could touch the ground. "Sorry, I wouldn't want you to do anything you'd regret." "I bet your husband keeps you plenty satisfied," he replied, walking towards me once again. "Are you serious?" I said, wondering how it would feel. "Go ahead and feel," he said. "Oh my God. Is it the biggest you've ever held?" He asked, laughing. Yes, by far. But what about your husband? He asked. Forget about him. You poor girl, he smirked. Oh my God. That was incredible, I sighed. What is your husband going to think about? He asked, smiling up at me. A wave of guilt washed over me as I realized what I had done. I panicked at the thought of my husband finding out I had cheated. I stood. Oh God. What have I done? I sighed, holding my head in my hands. There's nothing to worry about. I won't say a word to anyone, he said, sitting back and relaxing in the water. Besides, you wouldn't have had much of a choice. I didn't plan on pulling out, and there isn't much you could have done to make me. Nothing to worry about. I just cheated on my husband, I shouted. I felt guilty about being unfaithful, but so hard I didn't really have any regrets. It didn't seem to bother, he said. Obviously, I didn't give a second thought to what my husband would think, I admitted. Ha, ha. He laughed. This isn't funny, I could lose my marriage over this. Hey, I didn't force you to do anything you didn't want to do, he said. I know, but don't try to pretend you're so innocent. I just wanted to go for a quick swim, he explained, as if he didn't have a trap set. Yeah, right. I've been swimming plenty of times, I retorted. Yes, 11. See, you knew exactly what you were doing. I said, trailing off as my hand slid down between my legs. I'm conflicted. On one hand I feel horrible about cheating on my husband, but on the good, he laughed. So when can I see you again? I started to think about my schedule for the week. I can't do this. This is so wrong, I scolded myself as I realized I was trying to schedule the next time I'd be cheating on my husband. Wait, what? The man asked, looking confused. I need to get home. I said, and stood before heading for the locker room. I changed and walked out to the lobby, hoping to catch him before left, but it was too late. As I walked out of the front door and down the stairs, I heard him calling to me. Need a ride home? He shouted from his car. I paused for a moment, not sure what to do. I was afraid of my husband seeing me with him. I walked to his car and got in, deciding to take my chances. The car ride home was awkwardly silent with neither one of us speaking. My husband has never made, I said, finally breaking the silence as we pulled up at my house. Mixed emotions filled my head knowing our encounter was coming to an end. As I promised myself I'd never again cheat on my husband, I still hoped this wouldn't be the last time I saw him. I'm always around, just call maintenance. He said with a smile. I grinned back at him and stepped out of the car. As I got to the door, I turned to wave goodbye. Part 2, that's it. I'm calling maintenance again, my husband shouted, stepping out of the shower. Is the water pressure really that bad? I asked, pretending as if I weren't just as fed up. Why don't I look at it? I suggested, making every effort to avoid a visit from maintenance. I'm stopping by the rental office on my way to work. Hopefully they can come by today, my husband replied. If you insist on having them come fix it, could you at least be here while they're working? I asked my husband, not wanting to be left alone in the house with that handsome black man 2 weeks ago. Even with my renewed promise to stay faithful to my husband, there is no telling what might happen if I were presented with that type of opportunity again. No, I need to get to work, so please, do whatever you need to do to get the water fixed. My husband shouted, as he walked out the front door. Whatever I need to do? I said to myself, thinking about what that could mean. I wonder if my husband would have said that if he knew what happened the last time I was left alone with the dark-skinned, ravishing maintenance man. As I keep referring to the man I cheated on my husband with as maintenance man, the feelings of shame and sluttiness came flooding back. Somehow, I managed to cheat on my husband with a man I'd known for less than 20 minutes, without even knowing his name. I spent the next few hours nervously straightening up the house. Doing anything to keep my mind occupied. After vacuuming and putting all the laundry away, I decided I had better take a shower now in case they had to turn off the water. I guess this really does need to get fixed, I said to myself, turning on the shower and not getting more than a light spring rain. I stepped out of the shower to see an alert on my phone. Maintenance just called and they'll be there in 15, read the message from my husband. Better hurry, I said to myself, before stepping into my bedroom. Quickly drying off, I searched around for something decent to wear. Ding dong, the bell rang through the house. Hi, are you here to fix the shower? I asked nervously. Well, hello to you too, he said with a smirk. My name is Derek, by the way, he said, extending his large hand. Sorry, I'm just a little nervous. Renee, I apologized, shaking his hand. How have you been? It's been a long week, but my day got much brighter once I realized whose house I was visiting today, replied, with a mischievous smile. Hee hee, yeah. Well, come on in, I said, opening the door letting him past. Your husband mentioned he was on the way to work when he stopped by the office. Will he be returning anytime soon? Derek inquired. I'm not sure what his hours are today. Sometimes he just drops in for lunch, I explained, hoping to make his schedule as unpredictable as possible. Well, this could get interesting then, Derek replied, with the same mischievous smile. Yes, I know, but I'll let you lead the way, he replied. I started up the stairs with Derek following close behind. It's already awkward leading you into the bedroom my husband and I share, I said, blushing. So, the water pressure from the shower head is really poor. I don't know what's wrong with it, but I'm sure you can handle it, I said, showing him to the master bathroom. Yeah, this shouldn't take too long, Derek replied, setting his toolbox on the floor. Okay, great, then I'll leave you alone to work, I said, attempting to slip as far away from Derek as I could. The two of us alone in my bedroom was guaranteed trouble. Actually, it's company policy that workers are supervised when doing work in areas like the master bedroom, Derek said, gesturing me back. What? Are you making that up? I asked, assuming he was saying anything he could to keep me around. I wish. It's because people keep their valuables in here. We had an incident a few years back, he explained. I guess that makes sense. Well, maybe I'll learn something watching you at least, I said, sitting on the edge of the bed with a clear view into the bathroom. I bet you'll be watching, but it will be more for entertainment, Derek said, with a smirk. Okay, I replied sarcastically, crossing my arms as I sat on the edge of the bed. He wasn't wrong, but I wasn't about to admit that I'd rather be here watching him work than anywhere else. Don't stare too hard, you might go blind, he said. I wasn't even staring. I said. I couldn't believe how much trouble I was having keeping this man out of my head. I grabbed the remote to turn on the TV, hoping it would be enough of a distraction. After about 10 minutes I heard the shower turn on. Wasn't expecting that. Derek exclaimed, stepping out of the bathroom, his white t-shirt dripping wet. What happened in there? I asked. Well, your water pressure is back, he announced, before pulling the wet shirt over his head. Good, my husband will be glad to hear it, I replied. I should be finished in about 15 minutes. Derek said, can I get you one of my husband's shirts? I asked, hating myself for the suggestion, but I won't last much longer. No thanks, I wouldn't want to ruin any of his clothes, Derek declined. I'd really feel more comfortable if you'd put a shirt on, I insisted. Don't worry about it. I'll only be a few more minutes, he replied. It's very inappropriate being in a married woman's room, I said, raising my voice, getting more turned by the minute. Oh yeah? Derek asked, sarcastically. You're unbelievable. I scoffed. Thank you. I wasn't happy with his refusal to put on a shirt, but he had a point. If he isn't out of here soon, I'm not going to be responsible for my actions. I knew being alone with Derek in our house was going to be difficult. But it didn't turn out anything like I'd imagined. I assumed Derek was going to be much more aggressive in pursuing me, so I was prepared to shoot down what advance he had planned. Even in the event he got handsy, I kept my phone by my side to call the neighbors. Never did I imagine he would be cool and collected while I wrestled. Tell me, how is it that a married woman ended up in the pool with another man? Derek asked, looking back at me as he packed up his tools. It was a really hot night and I didn't have a bathing suit, I replied, thinking back to that moment. So, is that all it takes to? A little heat, he asked, the sly smile growing across his face. No. Well. You were also really persuasive, and didn't take no for an answer. I replied once again without putting too much thought into my answer, which will be coming back to bite any moment now. So, what is different about today? He asked. I promise to remain faithful to my husband. I'm not going to cheat on him again, I declared, doing my best to believe my own words. I bet he was pretty torn up when he found out his wife cheating, Derek said. What do you mean? He has no idea what happened, and I'd like to keep it that way, I asserted, hoping Derek wasn't planning on blackmailing me in my own home. I couldn't agree more, Derek replied, to my surprise. Then what are you getting at? I asked. Growing more confused. Please, Derek. My husband could come home at any moment. I pleaded, in a last-ditch effort to keep my promise to stay faithful to my husband. Is that really what you want? What do you really want? He said, I need you so bad. I confessed, what about your husband? Derek asked, forget my husband. I admitted, not the least bit concerned about what would happen to our marriage, giving up on my promise to stay faithful. And what if he comes home early? I don't know what I was thinking. I heard my phone chirp. I could tell from the custom alert that it was George, my husband. That's my husband, I said, reaching out for my phone. Tell him. You're busy and you'll call him back, Derek joked. Yeah, that would go over well, replied sarcastically, before reading the message. He's on the way home. I said in a panic. It's not like I want to get caught, I confessed. I don't want to lose my job, Derek replied. Then we better make this quick. I suggested, that what you wanted? He asked, oh my God, yes. That was incredible. Baby. I'm home for lunch. I heard my husband call from downstairs, as he walked in the front door. He's here, you have to go. I panicked, pushing Derek in less than a minute. Derek was dressed, had his tools packed, and was on his way down the hall, with his wet shirt slung over his shoulder. Water pressure is back to normal, mister, I heard Derek speaking with my husband. What was the problem? George asked. Narrow pipes, just had to flood them with my special blend, Derek added, saying much more than my husband picked up on. Great, could you leave some of that special blend here in case the pipes need to be flooded again? George asked, making Derek snicker. Don't worry, I flooded those pipes really good. I've never seen pipes so full. There will be plenty up in there for a while, he said, holding in the laughter, enjoying the opportunity to tell my husband I was distracted eavesdropping on their conversation, that I hadn't located the rest of my outfit. Baby? My husband called, as he climbed the stairs. Yes, love. I replied, crawling into bed, scrambling for the sheets to cover myself. Oh wow. I wasn't expecting this. George exclaimed, yeah, you said you'd be home for lunch, so I thought this would be a nice surprise. I said, how much of this do I owe to that buff shirtless maintenance man that just left? He asked, what are you talking about? I played dumb, not sure if knew what just happened.